Never Forget friends, and welcome back to Rumble in the Jungle. My name's Lara, this is Ava, and this podcast is brought to you by Never Forget Elephant Foundation, where we talk about all things elephants, all things never forget, and whatever else tickles our trunks. On the last episode, we talked about our concept of a win-win-win situation and how the elephants, the local community, and the jungle itself benefits from elephants being home in the jungle. On this episode, we thought it would be good to talk about something that's currently affecting everyone across the world in some way, that thing being COVID-19. Now, obviously, COVID has had huge devastating effects on human life, with thousands of people already having died. It's also affected businesses worldwide, both big and small, and it's affected the elephants as well, which is what we are going to discuss. So first of all, it's probably worth providing a little bit of context on the situation of captive elephants in Thailand. Ava, take it away.
Hi, Laura. I'm so happy to be here and looking forward to this discussion. Unfortunately, we do have to have this discussion. I wish we didn't have to. And hopefully we'll be able to be getting back to some sort of normalcy here pretty soon. Yeah, so I think that's a good place to start talking about where kind of the climate of what's happening with captive elephants today. So in Thailand, there are about 3,000 captive elephants, and a captive elephant is one that is born in captivity and has an owner. So these elephants are sometimes passed down through different generations in the family, and they're oftentimes owned by many, many people. For example, Momolo in our project, she is owned by 28 people. So as you can imagine, things get pretty complicated when you're dealing with all of these people and trying to figure out how to use their elephants for income, because this is how they have used elephants for centuries, is a means of it's their way of life. So what we try to do at Never Forget is provide an alternative to captivity where the elephants are not in situations where they are exploited. We bring them back to their natural habitat. We've talked about this in previous podcasts, so highly recommend going over there and where we talk about the why of the work that we're doing. But what happens right now is that the people who own elephants will lease them out to camps in Chiang Mai or in other cities. We're talking about Chiang Mai because we're up in the north in Thailand. And they'll rent them out to a camp owner, and the camp owner will market itself as, you know, an ethical place or sanctuary, and we use air quotes for that. And it's anything but that. But when speaking financially, what happens is just like you have a home that you rent to someone and you have income from that rental property. It's very similar concept with captive elephants. So what happened pre-COVID was that all of these thousands of elephants were working in cities, and they were used as tourist props. And the tourists would come in, pay the camp owner would then pay the elephant owner. So since tourism completely closed in Thailand, and it's had a devastating effect on the economy in Thailand, there hasn't been any money going through that channel, which before a lot of money came through that channel. So
that was back in March, right?
Yes, yeah.
The borders in March because of COVID.
Yes, yep, exactly. I left the project, I think it was on March 15 or something like that, or March 16, and I just barely got out before the border was closing, and the United States government said, everyone come home if you can. So yeah, that happened in March, and we unfortunately closed our program at the time for the rest of our first season. But yeah, seeing that what happened initially when COVID was first announced, everything just completely stopped. And people would say, oh, well, this is a really good thing for elephants. And of course, you know, the act of them not being exploited and they're not being brought down to the water, they're not being ridden, there aren't any circus shows. all of that is obviously wonderful, but the problem with this is that there isn't any money going into that channel. So
Yep.
those elephants were at risk of starvation right in March, right when everything started to shut down in Thailand.
It's obviously in these camps, I say again, air quotes, sanctuaries and these ethical places, the elephants can't find food for themselves. They're completely reliant on humans feeding them. So like you said, no income coming in through tourists, through visitors, equals no food.
Yeah. I mean, it's I can't even imagine what it must be like too for the elephant owners who really are good people. They want the best for their elephants, and the pressure and the stress that they felt and still do feel right now. No one wants to watch their elephants suffer. The problem isn't the elephant owners. It's the bigger picture here of how this industry is set up. So yeah, when an elephant eats 16 to 20 hours every single day
that must be hundreds of pounds of food.
Yeah. It's a lot of money to feed an elephant. So when COVID first hit and everything just stopped dead in its tracks, these elephants were initially at risk of starvation. And that's when, after I returned home and in touch with our local community and with Yo, our project director, and started learning about the effects that COVID was having on more elephants that our village specifically owns. And they came to us asking for help because there were two options. Either the elephants were going to starve because they didn't have enough food to be able to feed them, or money to be able to feed them, or they were going to be sent for logging. Logging is illegal in Thailand, but there's still illegal operations that happen. And the other option was to send them to Myanmar for logging. So when we first heard, once everything started closing, and we got in touch with our local community and identifying those elephants who were really at risk of those things happening, we got involved straight away. And our donors from around the world, you guys are just incredible to allow us to give us the means to be able to help these elephants.
Totally. Yeah. And I again, just around that, in these camps and stuff, they can't find their own food, and that surely just reinforces the fact that elephants belong in their natural habitat in the jungle, where they're not relying on humans to feed them, where they've got hundreds of thousands of acres of everything that they could ever possibly want to eat, where they could just forage all day long, like you said, for 16 hours or so.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Laura, because COVID has really made it so apparent that this is not a sustainable model. The way that elephants are used in tourism in Thailand right now, it does not benefit anyone. And financially, there are programs we can set up, just like Never Forget. It's proven to be successful. We have people come out, people want to experience elephants in their natural habitat, truly ethical places that are doing the right thing. If money was redirected into smaller nonprofits like ours, where we can help more elephants, and other programs who are doing similar really good work, that's kind of where, to your point, we look at this right now and it's like this whole problem could have been avoided for them. And it's even more apparent now when there is so much emphasis on, and so many heartbreaking stories about people who are the owners who just simply can't afford to feed their animals, and these people have had these animals in their families for decades and centuries. And it's just like you or I with our pets at home. Could you imagine your dog or your cat being at risk of starvation because you didn't have enough money to feed them? It's heartbreaking. So you have a great point that, they belong. We've been saying this all along. Elephants belong to nature. And when you're with them in their natural habitat and you see how much they eat and how their health improves, and then looking at this now, it's like, oh my gosh, if only we had like been able to see in the future, right? You know, in a global pandemic like this, setting up a model of tourism in a more sustainable way, of having some foresight into thinking, planning for the worst, right? And setting things up a little bit differently would have had a different output for them right now. But it has been, I've been reading a lot, the biggest migration of captive elephants in Thailand. So, you know, as these camps that we were talking about before started closing down, the elephant owners would go back into the cities, retrieve their elephants, and walk them sometimes hundreds of kilometers out to their villages, because they couldn't leave them in the cities, in these camps where they were at risk of starvation.
And it's like what you said before, you touched on about you know, the elephant owners as well. And obviously the elephant owners don't like their elephants being in the city, you know, when they would rather they be at home in the village or in the jungle nearby. So yeah, it's, and we'll get into this in a bit, I think. But just, I've seen so many articles online about elephants being set free, and I'd use set free in air quotes. And it's something that people will see this, the headline on the article, or they'll read the first couple of lines of it and think it's a massive success and be like, yes, these elephants have been set free from these camps. But it's a bit more complicated than that, right? Elephants can't just be set free. Yeah,
the media has unfortunately done a big disservice to actually talking about the problem that they face. I've had a lot of my friends have sent me emails or text messages, and they've said, oh my God, Ava, this is so amazing. These elephants are being set free. And I'm just like, oh my, you know, face plant, palm into my forehead. I'm just thinking, no, this is actually not the reality of what's happening. And a lot of the pictures that you see online are of wild elephants. They're not even captive elephants in these articles. And people don't really understand that it's illegal to set captive elephants free in Thailand. So even if someone did want to, had an elephant that they owned, and they wanted to set that elephant free, and I'm using air quotes, and just let the elephant go, it's much more complicated than that. That elephant is a domesticated animal, just like our dog or cat at home. You know, we've talked about that. They're not a wild elephant. They don't have the same ability of, they didn't grow up in the wilds. They can't defend themselves. There are whole reasons why it's not a safe thing for these elephants just to be released, and it's a free-for-all. It's just not possible. Second to that is there isn't enough land. We talk about this all the time. We need to conserve land, and elephants need the jungle just like the jungle needs elephants. And we said this on the last podcast, no more jungle means no more elephants, right? So the problem is that there's a lot of farming, industrial farming, animal agriculture in Thailand, and there just isn't enough land. So even if there wasn't a law that said you can't release captive elephants, and if captive elephants could get along in the wild and be completely free, there isn't enough space for them. So that's what people aren't understanding, and it's not their fault, but I blame the media in this, because they've really done a poor job at communicating the problems, and it's a much more, like you said, Laura, much more complicated issue than just retrieving your elephant from the city and then just letting your elephant go.
Absolutely. I think in one particular article that I read, what had actually happened when they say set free, what they meant was that the elephants would no longer be used for riding when the camp opens up again. So they'd said, look, for the last 40 years or whatever, we've been using our elephants to give tourist rides, but after COVID is gone and things go back to normal, we're just going to let people still come to the camp, still pay but they maybe don't ride them. They'll maybe give them baths instead, or feed them bananas. And I know we've talked about this a lot on our previous episodes, but that's still, I think, it's still no life for an elephant, right?
No, and that's the thing too. It's these places in the city that are not their natural habitat. They're barren landscapes. There isn't any mental stimulation that they get from just being fed the same food over and over again. And yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit. And I think that it's disappointing to see that places are capitalizing on COVID in a way to market themselves in a new ethical way. And again, I'm using air quotes on that, when in reality, those elephants are suffering just as much as they would if they give a ride. If they don't give a ride, the elephant is still not in her natural habitat. She's still being used as in a for-profit business.
Yeah.
And you follow the money trail and you see where people's intentions are. So
I think as
it's
well,
disappointing seeing that.
For sure. Yeah, it makes me angry when I think about it.
I know.
It's like that as well, and we've talked about this before, but if you put yourself in the elephant shoes over the last 3, 4, 5, however many more months we've still got to go as well, they've not been given rides, they've not been pulled down to the river 3 times a day to be bathed. For the first time, in some of these elephants' lives, they're going to have had a small taste of what it's really like to be an elephant. So it's really sad to think that, like you said, just some of these businesses are using COVID as an opportunity to market themselves and bring even more money in.
That's heartbreaking. And I hope that once things start returning and we can start having these conversations, and as tourists, we are responsible for having a look at things, even though it's difficult to see that, and looking at where people's intentions are. And it's heartbreaking to think that even in this time of so many people are suffering throughout the world, and to capitalize on that for elephants too, and to kind of spin things around to say, oh, well, in COVID times, we're now doing this because this is more ethical, when in reality, nothing changes for those elephants. Whether they give a ride or they don't give a ride, the elephant is still chained up. They're still, they're not able to carry out their natural habits, all their natural behaviors. So it's, and I think too, as we're talking about this too, Lara, like and we talk about this a lot, like this situation is very complicated. This isn't a one size fits all solution. But I hope that when we have conversations like these, what we want to do is open up the dialogue a little bit more, and challenge ourselves to think differently. And what if, we worked with camps and tried to get more elephants out into our natural habitat at Never Forget, and work together rather than kind of having independent organizations, and how we can have a bigger impact together to really truly make a change for these elephants, and not just take advantage of them during a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, taking advantage of them, and as you said before, that the owners as well, it's a source of stress for the owners to have the elephants away from them, and working in the city and stuff. So yeah, and you mentioned as well, obviously we closed back in March. You left the project, got out before all the borders closed and all this kind of thing. You did mention briefly that because of the support of our fabulous donors all over the world, we were able to actually step in and help some of these elephants that we had been flagged to us as being in most need.
Yeah.
So we've got four additional elephants. With a fifth on the way.
Big smile on my face as you say that. Yeah, fifth on the way.
Fifth on the way. So we've got Moj. Let me see if I can remember. Moj. We've got Mobley. We've got Monage. And then we've got Meja, who has got a baby on the way.
Yep.
So that's exciting.
Super exciting. Yeah, and COVID has had positive and negative things that have happened as a result of it, obviously. And this has been one of those things that really, so many of us worry about our jobs, and the financial instability that we're all feeling globally is awfully scary. And, but so many of us, oops, my earpiece just fell out. So many people showed up for us, and it was just incredible. Absolutely amazing to see the generosity in such a difficult time financially for us. So that was really, really cool. Very special. So these 4 girls are going to get to be living for the rest of their lives in our project. And we have another baby on the way, which is exciting. So yeah, it's been really, really special. So big thanks to our donors for giving us the means to be able to to bring those girls home.
Definitely, massive thank yous. And I guess another positive thing, you mentioned that the positive and negatives have come out of this whole thing. One of the things I've certainly seen as a positive has been just the continued growth of the support network that we've got all over the globe. You know, we've got new donors, we've got new people fundraising, we've got new people reaching out, you know, our social media is growing, it's all this stuff, and people, in spite of some of the financial issues and things that you mentioned, people want to help, people want to support, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And there's so many things that we can do that it doesn't cost any money, which is really cool. You know, our friend Robin in Scotland, she just did a fundraiser where she ran 14 kilometers for 14 days in a row. Completely amazing. Big thanks to Robin. And she raised money for us along the way, which was really awesome. So there are all kinds of different ways that we can come together right now, that if you don't have the means to financially help, but you use Amazon, or you have your birthday coming up on Facebook and you can run a fundraiser there. This is such a hard time for us because we rely very heavily on our visitor program financially to give us the means to be able to carry out the programs and still provide service. We just purchased a projector for our local school. We had committed to our school that we were going to get them a projector, and we just did that. So we're still working in the community, and we can't do this alone. We've said this before. We're all volunteers. We all have other lives outside of Never Forget. This is something that we're all very passionate about. But we just can't do it on our own. And so there are a variety of ways that folks can get involved with us right now that's super helpful, again, because COVID has closed our doors, and it's going to be really difficult for us for the rest of the year, very challenging financially. So we really do need as much help as we can get right now.
And like you said, obviously there's the Amazon Smile stuff, there's the Facebook fundraisers that were set up on there. It might be worth checking if you're in the States, if your employer does like a gift matching program. I know that's a thing that a lot of businesses do as well. We're set up through that. So if you're listening and that is something that you are aware of that your employer does, reach out and we can make sure you've got all the info that you need to pass on to them. We've also got apparel coming soon.
Yeah, everyone's like, I want some shirts. I want one of these sweatshirts or a shirt that you're wearing. Yeah. So that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm excited about this. And you can donate to us, get a shirt, get a sweatshirt, a tank top, long sleeve shirt. We're going to have a variety of different things that are going to be up for donation. So really excited for that. And that'll help us. And then, you know, the other thing too with travel being closed right now is we all want things to look forward to, and Never Forget isn't going anywhere. We're in this for the long haul. And so if you are interested in visiting us at some point, making a booking right now, just securing your spot with a $200 donation as your deposit is super helpful. You don't have to choose your dates now or anything like that, but that really has a big impact on us, and it gives you something to look forward to as well. So we're going to be opening again in November 2021. So next year, and we've basically shifted all of our bookings out, pushed everything back a year, and we have a number of yoga retreats that are booked. So for yogis who are interested in either attending a retreat or hosting your own retreat with us, that's an option. There are a lot of different ways of folks who can get involved with us right now in COVID. And we're trying different ways of connecting with people. I think we all kind of have Zoom fatigue and at times. And so we're trying to just come up with different fun ways of engaging with everyone virtually during this time too.
Definitely. And just one small final way that you can support us that's often overlooked is on social media. So we're on pretty much every social media platform now, right? We're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and podcasts. And please follow us, tell people about us, share some pictures, share some stories, and really, that it's a small thing, but it really does do wonders. I mean, I discovered Never Forget through social media. So social media is a very, very powerful thing. So please do check us out if you haven't already.
Yeah, and sharing with your families and your family and your friends and all of that is, I think, like you said, Laura, it's kind of underestimated and overlooked sometimes, but a little share of, hey, go check out Never Forget Elephant Foundation, on a story or a post, or it just means so much to us. So we want to get back there just as much as everyone else does. And we really appreciate everyone's support during this time.
We've got I know some people won't be able to see because we won't be watching, but we have a surprise guest, one of Ava's dogs.
Yeah, right behind me. So we went swimming this morning, so we've got a wet dog behind me right now that's helping out. Yeah.
She smells lovely.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that is worth just mentioning? Well, I think we've covered some good ground, actually, talking about COVID and how it's affected the elephants and what the vision for the future is. But is there anything else that you think?
No, I think we covered it. I think just at a high level, COVID has been such a terrible thing that has happened. But again, folks have really supported us so much through this time, and we're really appreciative of that. And I hope for the future that these elephants that have been returned back to their owners right now and who are living, they kind of have this taste of freedom, if you will. I hope that there are changes that are made in the future in the tourism industry, and we start looking at sustainable options in the future rather than going back to everything as normal. I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to inspire some change during this time as we move forward out of COVID.
Hope so, hopefully.
Yeah.
Good. Another great chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that is all we've got time for today. But we will be back with another episode. Please do let us know if there's anything that you want us to chat about, if there's anything you want to know, anything you want to hear a bit more about. We are all ears for ideas. So get in touch, give us a shout. Meantime, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep on rumbling.